All right, welcome one and all to Survivor Cook Islands. All right, it's the start of
Survivor
something new.
13. Season 13. Here we go.
13. If you're new to the channel, I'm a big fan of Survivor, and I'm taking my friend Alec here on a journey through seasons of Survivor chronologically since the beginning. We watched it was like the beginning of January 2019. We reviewed Survivor Borneo. And ever since then, we reviewed every season and did reactions to every episode since Thailand. All right, so it's been a long time coming,
Mm.
and we're just keeping it moving. We're glad to be back to Survivor, and a new season on the horizon.
Yeah, it's one of those exciting things. So we've been doing in between seasons the last few times we've been watching seasons of Black Mirror. But we just finished the fourth season, and I've been raring to go on this ever since we finished it. So
Yeah.
definitely looking forward to Cook Islands. So whatever wherever that may take us.
Yep. So like, just keep that in mind if you leave comments or what have you. If you do leave comments on any of our videos, we'll always read them on the next episode we do of the Tarqaron podcast. There'll
Yep.
always be a little timestamp on there where you can see where we're reading comments. But I won't read anything that spoils anything or any seasons to come because he's coming in with a fresh perspective. It doesn't know things in the future. I know a lot of Survivor fans jump in and they're like going all around a bunch of different seasons. And I know for myself, when I first started watching, like we started at season 19, and then I kind of knew like stuff, pretty much all the outcomes of the first several seasons before I even got to watch them. This is great. This is 2006 still. We're in a time capsule here.
Yeah.
Great.
And yeah, I basically sworn to secrecy. I don't read comments on any of our Survivor videos. And I also I got my parents into Survivor like just earlier this year, I think, or at the end of last year. They're now past me, or past us. And so
He's sworn off his.
I've had to, I've told them like we cannot talk Survivor anymore.
And just to be safe, we cannot talk. I will not be seeing you. Goodbye.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was sad, but
So.
you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, well, I didn't think I would get them like hooked. I thought they would be interested in
Yeah,
it, but I
right.
didn't think that they would just straight up binge the whole show like they've been doing.
Well,
Like Rusty and Lauren did apparently as
Right.
well. So,
when we started, I was like, when we started watching Survivor Borneo, I was like, we'll try it out for a couple episodes. If you don't enjoy it, or then we can like go to more interesting seasons or whatever. Because I was never in planning to do all those videos and stuff, just for fun. And because it was like old school Survivor. I don't know if he'll be into it as much. It's very bare bones. There was a vote where people are just voting. It was like 4 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. It's like. But you were into it from the beginning, so I was like, all right, let's just stick with it. And then it turned into we did like videos on my channel the first 3 seasons. Then it turned into this channel being like a what do you call it? Foundation for the channel, basically.
yeah.
It's a staple.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so as is tradition, you can click the link in the description to see the highlights of our reaction and then come back afterwards for what should be a fun discussion. All right.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right,
That's
Alec.
right.
That's episode 1 of Survivor Cook Islands. What are you thinking coming off the episode?
Really interesting. It's like, So I can see. I think I can understand why you're saying. Well, we were reacting to it. This was a little controversial when it came out. I can definitely understand that. I'm very interested in seeing how it turns out, though. I think it's really like more fascinating than it is like than taking offense to it. Of course, I'm not a minority, so I can't pretend to speak for anyone's experience when it comes to this sort of thing. But I like it. like I can't speak for obviously is not a minority. I can't really speak for anybody's experience or shared experience or like what they would feel about this kind of a thing. But I think it's interesting for the very fact alone that like we're having groups of people that have like a shared experience of a certain thing, and I just think that's interesting. We've never really had anything quite like that in Survivor. Everyone's just been all jumbled together. It's like it's almost like in and of itself is culture clash. Like you got men and women, so there's some of that. But here is very much like a different, divided down ethnic lines is almost like there's a between men and women of different ethnicities. There's a certain way of or there's going to be a certain like I said, shared experience, and I think that's a really interesting way. Like we haven't seen like tons of brewing conflicts within the tribes, and they're going to be interesting to see that. I think what's interesting is that the most interesting is the fact that we do actually have distinct cultural differences in the Asian American side of things. Because, well, for one thing, one of them is just a Vietnamese refugee, so he was not born in America, whereas the rest of them were, because I think they're all younger. And he's a little bit older, so there's already a generational divide there somewhat. But his experience is like completely different than theirs. He's Vietnamese, but you have Vietnamese, you have a couple of Korean Americans, and then you have Filipino and like Filipino and Hawaiian. So like those are drastically different cultures, and so like that's already a little interesting there. Like because you're kind of lumping Asian Americans in, but like really like Southeast Asia and East Asia are very very different culturally. I mean, heck, even places between like the Philippines or Indonesia, like those are drastically different. So Indonesia primarily a Muslim culture, Philippines primarily a Catholic culture. So you have that, like that's just religion, not only to say culturally very different despite being in geographically similar areas. So maybe a little bit of insensitivity in that regard, but I appreciate at least what they're like. That's not to say that they're awful for doing anything like this, but I think we're at a point now where there's a lot more nuance to that discussion, and maybe it was lacking at that period of time, but I still think it's an interesting concept, an interesting sort of in terms of a touching point or a starting point to sort of begin this kind of experiment. I don't know. I really like it personally, but we'll have to kind of see how it plays out down the line.
Yeah, I'd say I love this episode. I think it's a great premiere, and like I think it's really nice getting to see everybody's reaction to the theme. You know, like what they think about it. Like people actually saying how there will be difficulties with it. It's not like they just gloss over it. You know, you get to see everybody's perspectives of like each of the tribe talking about being split up that way. You get Yule, and I think that's the one thing with it that I don't like, which is a product of it, is that it's going to put people in a box. Like it's going to limit how they can play the game because they're going to want to represent a certain way, you know? And like Yule was saying, is like on the one hand, I'm not sure because it could play into stereotypes, but
right.
And like you have that added pressure now to like represent your community. Like
and then exactly.
But on the other hand, it could be an interesting social experiment. Yeah. But I really like seeing all the differences and actually getting to explore that. And I love that it's the most diverse cast. But what I don't like about it is it's essentially the gimmick of the season is like diversity. Yeah. It's like, isn't that a kooky idea to have like a bunch of different minorities in the mix?
Yeah,
whereas usually it's like all white people and then like 2 or 3 minorities. You know.
Yeah, it is interesting when you look at it that way. It's like hey, it's the most diverse cast, and we've secluded them all off from each other.
Yes, that
So
too.
it's
That too.
like it's like
They're secluded, and it's like it's only a diverse cast for the theme, you know.
it almost would have been more interesting to jumble them all up.
Right,
Like
just give us
really,
a diverse
like
cast and do that. Yeah,
yeah, that could have been interesting. Um,
because I think
I don't know
diversity adds a lot, like especially in a social experiment like this. And there's
for
like,
sure.
obviously we haven't watched the season yet, but I think it's a great cast here, just based on first impressions.
First impression is extremely strong. I will say that. I actually completely agree with it. This is like one of the best. I think one of the better opening episodes. Like this is like there's shades of like Pearl Island's greatness in this. It's maybe not quite as strong, but I think
Hmm.
it does like really. You really get a sense of like how sort of different feeling this season is to its to, and I think I agree to like both its maybe some strength and maybe its weakness.
I don't think it's a coincidence
I think well,
that it's the most diverse
yeah,
cast and it's a great cast. Like I think
yeah.
that adds a lot to it.
For
Um,
sure. I mean, yeah, every tribe, like how they interact with each other, the flavor is completely different in every.
mhm.
Yeah, I don't
'Cause, I
know.
mean,
It's interesting.
look at how many seasons we've seen where it's like, okay, here's like three generic athletic white dudes, like, like,
Yeah,
and in some seasons, like, just kind of going through them. It's like John P, John K.
yeah, yeah.
It's
And we're
like
like we're like yes,
Brooke, Brooke.
Greg and Greg.
You know, it's just like
Classic Greg and Greg.
so. It's a shame that they only see it as the novelty of the theme. You know, like you don't.
Make it
It's
yeah, make
considered
it
like bold to go for a
yeah,
diverse cast. You know.
yeah.
Uh,
Make it this diverse every season. That'd be interesting. I mean,
because like
yeah,
I'll just
like
say, I mean, Survivor's always struggled with diversity even until up until like 3 years ago, and that's like the last 3 seasons that we've had of Survivor, or last 4 seasons, have been since CBS did this diversity initiative to where they have to have at least like 50% of the cast being a minority. But before that, it was pretty much more the same thing, like 90% white people and then a couple of minorities, you know, and it's a shame.
it is. It's tough. Yeah, it is kind of tough. I think because like I think it's weird. Yeah, that they would do like it. To me, like it's almost as strange to make it like they have to be at least 50. Like making it like a specific number also makes it kind of a little weird to me. Where it's like you're almost forcing the issue when it's like maybe just. I guess maybe they have to do that in order for it
They
to
have to
to
do it
like
to make it
to
normal to have a diverse cast.
make it. Yeah.
That's the sad thing. Because I'll just say, I mean, without saying anything about the seasons, noticeably people have said the last few seasons that like the castings, like everybody always says they love the casting. They might critique other stuff, but the casting's been great.
Mm,
And again, I
mm.
don't think it's any coincidence. You know, it's nice to see some different perspectives. And
Yeah, I mean, I think by all means that definitely adds to the experience as a whole
not
because
not
I
only
mean,
for the viewer.
America. Well, yeah, not only for the viewer, I think because I mean, America's like the great American melting pot, right? It's supposed to be like, and that's not to say like that. A lot of times, I think that's been used. I think and maybe the original use of that was to say that everyone's just merging into the one thing, but I think to me, I've always sort of taken that as like you see almost rather as a stew. Like you have all kinds of different shared experiences, and yeah, all of you might be American, but you all have very different
Hmm.
flavors to the profile, right? You all have so many different shared experiences to or not shared experiences. You have unique experiences that you then are bringing to the table, and yeah, I mean, I think by all means that just makes it more should be should be done more. And it's his. I guess it is kind of too bad that it took so long for that to happen. Again, I think it is weird that it's like it has to be meet a number, but I guess in order for it to really genuinely feel a lot more diverse, you sort of have to do that. The science, despite as rote and strangely scientific as it feels to do so, but
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, not only is it as viewers like is it more fun to have different perspectives, but
mm,
I've heard so many stories from like people of color who played Survivor, how like they feel like it's a disadvantage because you're always like Rory would talk about, he's the odd one out. There's only
yeah,
one black guy in the whole season. It's
yeah,
like that's a tough thing to just start that way.
yeah,
And even if it's subconscious, like people can latch onto anything to be like they are the
sure,
outsider or they're the
yeah,
different one. So it's
yeah,
nice to have a more even playing field.
yeah,
But so as much as I might criticize like some elements of it, I'll always give it credit for at least being the most diverse cast.
yeah, yeah. So good for it on that regard, at least.
But yeah,
Um,
definitely controversial at the time. I know people were excited to see your reaction to the. I've had a couple comments of people saying I'm excited to see your reaction to
mm,
the tribe divisions in this because
I think I think it's great. I've like this to me. It like makes me just anticipate like the possibilities of the season are just like endless now. Like it's great. I love the fact it sucks that there's like the certain weird, like you said, like almost the gimmick, but I mean, like for crying out loud, the most boring tribe is the Caucasian tribe. It's so
yeah.
everyone else is so much more interesting, and like that,
Well, because let's
it's
be
almost
real, there's no culture there. It's like white. You can't be white and be like, oh, I'm so proud to be white. Let's bond in our culture. Like it's just not.
right. A lot of because
Because
a lot of that, a lot of like I can say like my hair, like our culture, white people's culture, really comes more from our older heritage, right? Like where we come from. You're Italian American, or you're Irish American, or you're French Canadian, like my heritage is, or Scottish English. That's where a lot of my both sides of that are kind of like where a lot of that comes from, and like I more identify of New England heritage more than anything else, but like there's not really like
and it's
we don't
not.
we're not even getting that from like I think the most we might be getting is from like Jonathan, who sounds like he's a New Yorker, so I don't know
I don't know,
where
but
his background is
let's
from,
let's
but
be completely real. Like the all white tribe is just take any other season of Survivor. Like it's just the tribe.
that's what I mean. It's
It's
like you
like
got they even say like we got the jock, we got
like
the
that's
pretty
all.
girl, we got
Yeah.
the smart girl, we got the alt girl,
Those
and
are
then we
the
have the
archetypes that we
old
have in
man.
a normal season.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And it's like
That's just like classic
it's just
Survivor.
another day in the game. There, like it's why it's much more interesting when you have there's a lot more culture to the other groups, and also the fact that it's not normal that they sadly are usually like the one or two odd men out
Right.
when they're on Survivor. So I think it makes for more interesting discussion. I remember I haven't got a chance to watch it with her yet, but I definitely do. When my girlfriend's black, and I asked her like, "What do you think of this theme? Do you think it's good or bad or whatever?" And she said she didn't see a problem with it. But she'd be
Yeah.
interested to see how it plays out.
Well, we see that reaction too. I think from most people, they're like they don't. There's like one of the castaways said, I can't remember who, basically said that like yeah, I don't have a problem with it. Like it's big deal. But then it's interesting. Like we've even said like seeing the different lenses where it's like people are maybe they're not like against it, but they're like we want to try to avoid like I don't want this to end up in stereotypes and like oh now
Right.
I feel like I have to represent like a whole culture like kind of thing. And so like there's all definitely like layers to it which are felt differently by different people and
Right, because
by different ethnic groups.
the
So
pressure of being put in your group with a minority group,
Right.
and it's
Put
like,
in your group. Yeah. It is very much like, yeah, group identity, like in a way
and
too. Or
it's like
yeah.
this is a show. Like you could definitely see, or I imagine they would be like, I don't want to be seen like, we don't want to be seen as like attacking each other, we don't want to
Yeah.
like target each other, we want to lift each other up kind of thing.
Right.
So it's like you're kind of constricted in how you might play the game otherwise, where it's like,
Right.
a white person playing the game is not going to be like, oh, I'm worried about how I'll be perceived or who I'm representing. It's just they can play how they want to play. So it's a lot. It's a lot of layers, but
Yeah.
that would be interesting to see how it plays out.
I'm real curious. Yeah.
That's kind of the overarching stuff. Any specific stuff from the episode or specific people that stand out?
I mean, I liked Seku a lot. So, and got a really cool name. We both commented on it. We unfortunately gonna have no more of him.
Another cool.
So.
We got a lot of cool names in the mix for this season. Some unique names that you don't see like the same name over and over again each Survivor season.
Yeah. How many Robs? How many Brads? Johns. Yeah. Well, we have a John. We have a Jonathan. Stephanie, I like her. She just has like, I think she has like, her expressions are just like everything. They're just so great. It's like, because it's like she's just like it's clear she's just like thinking, but like you can kind of tell what she's thinking just by looking at like when someone's telling her what to do, and she's kind of like she's just sort of sitting there like Or when Seku was trying to like, he's like, hey, you need to come to our side, and she's like,
this whole pitch here going on, like really going for it.
And she's just like, I was like, he didn't get through to her at all.
That's the thing. Like, during the episode, I was giving them praise for actually putting more people, because it's like 4 people in each tribe is really rough to navigate. 5 is a little more, but then the product is that each tribe is uneven in different ways for the gender split.
Now there's a gender. Now it's by gender lines a little bit. So it's like,
okay.
Well, yeah. So you have to cross that divide at least a little bit. So
the way it's worked out on this tribe was interesting. That like there's 2 pairs, and everybody just knew that she's just the odd woman out somehow.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just where she's at, and she's content with that. She just had to pick one pair to keep intact and one pair to not.
I also liked oh shoot, I don't remember his name, the metal guy on the Aita. Billy, love him. I really like him already. So I'm a big I'm looking forward to seeing Billy's adventure. So
right. And so you mentioned the divide of the God, I need to remember the tribe names. Dear God.
Puka is the... Well, Puka is the... So we have Hiki, who's the African-American tribe. We have Puka, the Asian American tribe. Okay. Aita is the Latino tribe, and I didn't even write down the Caucasian tribe name. I didn't remember what it was. Because
Raro. I remember Raro.
Raro.
R-A-R-O.
Raro.
But I was going to say, Puka... They have Cowboy, who's very much
Cowboy.
One
Cowboy.
That stands out.
He's really interesting. I doing that weird like like thing.
And I'm just immediately out the gate, just making insensitive jokes, and they're like, "Please stop! This is going on TV."
He's making stereotypical jokes already, and they're like, "Please stop doing that. That's not funny." And he's like, "No, it's but it's funny." They're like, "No, it's not, but it is."
He's saying like, he's never felt accepted by the Asian community because he doesn't fit the stereotype. So it's ironic that he's making jokes about stereotypes.
Yeah, which is interesting. Yeah.
But that is an interesting element to it, because he's definitely he's the one who wasn't born in America, and he's the older one, so he's got 2 things working against him in that divide. Yeah. They
don't seem like they necessarily gel too well with him at the moment. And particularly looking at the next episode, that seems to be the case there as well. But I did like his like little home remedy to help his headache. That was cool.
Right.
He's like, it worked. I've got a big
Seemed
mark
to
on my
work,
face
yeah.
now, but so
I didn't know. I didn't know such a thing existed. Like, just
no.
force
Well, I
the
mean,
headache out.
here's the thing. Like chiropractors and acupuncture. There is there's legitimacy to sort of like Eastern medicine. The only caveat that I'll say to that is that things like chiropractors, you're not addressing the problem. You're addressing the symptom. You're not addressing the actual problem. So basically, all you're kind of doing is putting a band-aid on it, which is why you have to have regular visits to a chiropractor.
Mm.
Because basically they're doing adjustments because they're not permanently fixing any sort of problem. They're just sort of, it's just sort of, you're addressing more the symptom rather than or what is it? You're addressing the symptom as opposed to addressing the underlying problem. Which is
Right.
so that
I don't.
which is like fine because it will make you feel better. Like you will have a better general quality of life for at least a couple of weeks, and then you're gonna have to go back again. So
Well, because my girlfriend was saying she really wants to go to a chiropractor. She doesn't have like specific problems though, so I don't know.
yeah, I mean, like from from people's experience. I mean, like I've definitely felt like I've had to go. Sometimes I probably should have. I do need to get some like adjustments and stuff to my back and shoulder. But I do know that it's like that's not gonna ultimately fix the problem. It's just gonna help me feel maybe feel a little better for a while.
Adjustments, like you're
Adjustments.
like car or something. I gotta get some adjustments.
I got my shoulders adjusted.
They switched out my kneecap. Like, give me a tune-up.
This freaking Cars universe is what this is. Yeah, they got me replacing my.
Yeah, and then Raro, over in Raro, there was a cuddle puddle. Don't forget.
Duh. Please stop. Never say that again. Oh yeah, there's like a couple of them that were like getting real close. They showed him like up close. He's practically like sleeping on her face. It was weird.
I mean, they're in the thick of it. They are
in
each other. Like
basically,
literally.
Yeah.
And if it was any other episode, Cuddle Puddle would probably be the name of the episode for me.
It's true.
I don't know. There's a lot here.
No.
So.
Not really.
But yeah, so they had those two getting close, and then Jonathan, who made his name for taking the chicken.
Took the chicken, and then
from Puka.
And then and then the guys on Hiki went and were like, so we're getting rid of him.
Okay, so
he's going to exile. Oh, okay, yeah. Let's talk about mechanics again.
What were the adjustments?
No,
I was going to talk about the mechanics. Yeah, I was first going to say the fact they kind of set themselves up here with the guy duo of Hiki. It's like they immediately set themselves. Okay, we're gonna make the decision. We're just gonna step out, not even consider what the women have to say, and then they're gonna expect Stephanie to side with them when it comes down to vote. Like they didn't really think that went through.
Yeah, I love how I think they basically said to Sandra was just like, no. I think it was Sandra that said that, or was it? I don't remember. One of them said. Like, oh yeah, well, they look like they got it all set, so we'll just sit back, and that just felt like this. There's so much passive aggressiveness in that. It was so like, they got to take it care of.
It's so bad because
it was pretty bad. It was a bad look.
If you want to, like, they probably didn't even think about the option of losing and like having to then those votes. It's like, oh wait, we need to actually get Stephanie aligned with us now.
Yeah.
So like they started doing the work like 2 days too late probably.
Yeah.
And so if they didn't do that, it would have been a lot more of a shot. And also the fact like even if they were like more accepting or welcoming of the other women in that moment and in general, if you give Stephanie the option, you got two pairs First of all, yeah, you're probably more likely to side with the women,
Yep.
like your own gender, probably in that situation. And also the fact that like you have a guy who's like clearly wants to run things. I think it's a lot more satisfying to vote him out versus women who are just like keep the
Yeah.
peace kind of thing. He's like, I'm the tribe leader. All
Yeah.
right,
He's
I'll vote
even
him
though he's
out.
like, even though it's like he's like, oh no, I wasn't trying to be, and it's like, well,
But the two guys were clearly taking control there. So it's like, okay,
yeah,
let me knock
yeah,
them down a peg then. All right.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, so Exile
So
Island and Immunity Idol's back.
that's
What do you
back.
think?
I think it's a little more interesting to do it this way, because I don't know. It's like it's having it's particularly if we have four tribes, and if it stays that way, we have four tribes that are, um, the losing tribe gets to decide anyone from the other three tribes going to. I don't know. That makes it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more dynamic. I think,
Mm-hmm.
rather than the winner. It wasn't it the winner chooses who's going to
Yeah.
Exile Island. Wasn't that how it was in the previous? So it was almost like a rich got to decide who went, but it's like you sort of get to take the winners down a peg. And I think that's a little bit more interesting of a wrinkle to it, rather than it just being like, well, we're just gonna send Bruce back again, like.
Right. I mean, we were critical of certain elements. I was especially critical of like the fact that it's like, hey, it was reduced to just like, all right, nothing's going on in Exile unless yada yada. Because
Yeah.
Terry had found the idol so quick, and then everybody was just going there for no reason. So
Yeah.
it was like they would spend 10 seconds to check on them, and it's like reality they were spending 24 hours out there suffering.
Or
for nothing.
longer. Yeah. In this case, didn't they say he said 2 days out there or something? Isn't that what they're sending him out there for?
Maybe.
Jonathan out there for 2 days? Jeez.
But
It's like, I'm cold, I'm miserable, I just want to be back. I just want to be back out there.
so we'll see if they modify or improve the format at all here. It'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see.
It will be interesting to see that. That's for sure.
Anything else?
I don't think so for now. Well, we have 20 castaway. That's the biggest
20.
cast so far.
Palau
So-
had 20, but took out 2 immediately. So
Yeah. So it's
basically didn't.
yeah.
Yeah.
So well,
So I mean, there's
We'll
a
have to-
lot of questions like in Panama when they did the 4-tribe split, they immediately went to 2 tribes. Like how long
Yeah.
will we stay with 4
Yeah.
and whatnot?
I mean, it does beg the question. I mean, we could be going back pretty soon, but I feel like this gimmick, they're going to stick with it a little longer, and the fact that we have more
Yeah.
more people present, I think they'll probably stick to it a little bit more. So
All right.
yeah,
Well, what a great kickoff! Interesting discussion.
for sure, it's quite the start to the season. That's for sure. I mean, it's one of my favorite season openers, I think.
One of my favorite season openers too, and I mean it's got shades of Pearl Islands in the theme too. So I mean, can't go
Yeah.
wrong with that.
Yeah, it's true.
We love the pirates. We love the pirates.
We
in
do
Pearl
love
Islands.
pirates. We love pirates here.
No,
We
we're here at
stand
the
pirates
Cook
here.
Islands. We're here at the Cook Islands,
Yeah.
so
It's true.
let's do it. So thank you for watching. Come back next week for another episode of Cook Islands. Absolutely. What video would you recommend our viewers watch next?
Do I MVP anyone? Yeah.
Oh,
Or do we do that later?
Yes. Yes.
Well,
yes.
it's-
Every episode is
answer-
MVP.
The answer is very easy. It's Siku. So
Sekou with the MVP.
yeah, he gets the MVP.
Take it with
so,
you as a consolation.
yeah,
That's absolutely
Yeah.
great.
I think he
Great
could have been
leader.
an interesting character for the show, but yeah, well, them's the shakes sometimes. So
If nothing else, he was a great leader, and you can't take that from him on his
you
way
can't
out.
take that from yeah, he's like, I think they respected that about me. And it's like, what? I think that's copium.
You know
my
that whole
dude.
thing when you respect your leader so much that you want him
You
out
vote them out.
immediately? That's called a mutiny, my friend.
that is a mutiny right
in
there.
this party season.
That's yeah.
It's like getting thrown overboard by your own crew and being like, oh, they
They love me.
They
They
love me.
love me.
They're gonna do so good because of my leadership, and I'm proud of them.
Yeah.
Copium, absolutely.
Copium.
Yeah, so yeah, I almost forgot that. Good catch. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
tradition here. You get to award MVP every episode for whatever reason it may be.
Yep.
All right. Hopefully, hopefully you don't. Your MVP doesn't get voted out every time.
Every single time. I sure hope not.
All the
Yeah.
best. Yeah. All right. Well, what video would you recommend our viewers watch in the meantime?
We've referenced it a lot here. Go check out our reaction to the Pearl Islands opener.
Mm.
It's a great one too. So
The only sad thing about that is that it only captured. There was the one episode where it only captured your footage.
oh no, you're right. I forgot about that. Oh, that is too bad.
Like you can hear my voice, but
Yeah.
my thing was frozen the whole time, so I just took me out of it and put you by yourself, and it's my my voice over top. But,
yeah, it's good. That's a great
but
episode.
it's the Produce Ryan origin story.
Produce Ryan Orange.
It's gone too soon. He was out like episode 2.
It was episode 2 he was out, yeah.
Maybe?
No, he was out second.
Wow.
I love him his weird like twitchy like stuff he was doing.
Not have a good go of it. An unsung hero. No. It's kind of sad, the story of Produce Ryan, because he was a big fan of Survivor.
Oh no!
He just did not. The experience did not go well for him at all, and so I think he kind of like is just like steered far away from Survivor ever since. It's horrible.
Sad.
Someone, if you have contact with Ryan's shoulders, please tell him that he's loved.
He is. He's very. We do love him. Maybe more than like any other people talk about him. We probably talk about him the most.
Skinny Ryan. Yeah.
Skinny Ryan. Yeah.
Thank you for watching us, and if you want more Survivor content, every week we'll be having more episodes, and you can check the playlist on our channel for so many more. Over 100 Survivor videos at this point.
Wild.
And subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, and if you do, be sure to read it in the next episode of the Tarqaron podcast, as long as it's not spoiling anything. And then click the link in the description for our social media and hit that notification bell. All right.
That's all right. Ding dong.